4 young men, including a juvenile charged in connection with the shooting of a Canadian visitor, have been remanded. The incident occurred at Hubbell's Bath in St. John on March 12th. They are Damien Omar Brathwaite, 31 years, of Kendall Land, St. John; Kyle Donico Gill, 21 years, of Nair, Danesbury, Blackrock, St. Michael; Rick Jabari Clark, 24 years, of Phillips Road, St. Stephen's Hill, Blackrock, along with the juvenile. The quartet appeared before Magistrate Christopher Birch in the District C Magistrates Court. 3 of them were remanded to Dodds Prison until April 22nd, while the juvenile has been remanded to the Government Industrial School. Rick Clark, Kyle Gill and Damien Brathwaite also face additional charges in connection with another aggravated burglary at a residence at Glenburnie in St. John on March 3rd. A 4th man is believed to have been involved in that incident. Police are investigating an aggravated burglary which occurred about 7:30 this morning at the Pool Hall, Marhill Street in Bridgetown. 2 men, one armed with a gun, stole an undisclosed sum of money from the staff at the establishment. The 2014-2015 estimates are attempting to restructure the economy. This from Minister of Foreign Affairs and Leader of Government Business in the Upper House, Senator Maxine McLean. She led off 3 days of debate in the chamber after the estimates were approved by the lower house last week. Senator McLean says a rationalization of the public sector is vital to cutting costs, contending that government has become too large and needs to be downsized. She says government maintained employment in the public sector because the private sector was not generating jobs.
What we are seeing now is that we are delivering to the public significant amounts of medication and so on at reduced prices. In other words, there have been greater efficiencies realized and as such significant savings to the public purse. We have also seen, Madam President, efforts to enhance the infrastructure of the hospital.
Senator McLean says government is already seeing greater efficiencies in the public sector as a result of its management of the economy. She says the Barbados Drug Service, for example, has seen much needed improvements and efficiency.
A population that is not adequately educated to function in the world of work, a population that is not exhibiting an adequate health status will not be most productive. And of course, the third area that I spoke to is that of the Ministry of Social Care, because of course we recognize that in any society there will be heterogeneity of the population. Everybody will not experience the same level of success. Everybody will not recognize and be able to take advantage of all the opportunities provided to them. And therefore there must be adequate provision for the taking care of those people who need assistance.
Senator McLean says the 2014-2015 estimates include modifications to the tax system, concessions to some quarters, and are aimed at fiscal consolidation while rolling out a concrete growth strategy. In this regard, Senator McLean contended that health and education underpin the development thrust of government.
We also sought to hold jobs, Madam President, in the private sector, notwithstanding our constraints. And we know, for example, Madam President, that in 2009, 2010, resources would have been made available to the tourism sector in its fullest extent. There was a TUR fund which was intended to shore up those businesses that were challenged in terms of their ability to generate foreign exchange in the face of the impact of declines in our source markets for visitors, the UK, the USA, and so on.
Well, the opposition in the Senate is predicting that more civil servants will be sent home in short order, and it's upset with government's handling of the situation. Senator Jerome Walcott suggested that the estimates in no way addresses the issue of layoffs across the public service and the hundreds of Barbadians being affected. He took issue with Senator McLean's presentation, describing the debate as a grand illusion in serious times. The opposition senator expects more will be known about layoffs in the weeks ahead as government tries to meet its deadline.
In fact, over the weekend, a whole series of letters went out to people from NCC telling them that, well, this is better. At least they're getting a week, 2 weeks notice. But in some of those cases, were messengers from certain departments turned up at their doors, giving them these letters. And we are saying that these things are wrong. If you have to make these decisions, the government should have dealt with this better. They had the time, they were speaking about retrenchment since August, and certainly it should not be happening at this point in time in the manner in which it was done.
Senator Walcott went on to dismiss government's main argument for economic decline in Barbados. He says that, like Barbados, all Caribbean countries have been affected by external factors playing out in major tourism source markets. But he says Barbados suffered most because of the failed policies of the Frandl Stewart administration.
The only country not showing growth, Barbados. And we are expected to swallow this thing as though it has to do with the external factors, as though Barbados is in some special cocoon in its relationship with the United Kingdom, USA, and Canada that causes it to suffer, whereas these other countries all around us, having the same trade relations with and tourist relationship with these countries, are showing progress.
Dr. Walcott also wants to know what's happening with the multi-million-dollar Four Seasons project.
There's a $120 million loan that the government of Barbados has given. And we were told, certainly it was announced, that there was a certain company which was proposing to inject over $400 million into the project. And this would have paid off the debts, including the $5 million to the NIS and other creditors. I am interested in finding out from the Honorable Senator, what is the position with this? Is there any truth?
Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs Chris Sinclair has dismissed as fancy talk calls to privatize the state-owned Transport Board. He revealed that while it takes $110 million to keep buses on the roads, the Transport Board is spending about $100 million to transport about 25% of the population. According to Minister Sinclair, just like regional carrier Liat, he would like to see the state entity be more efficient.
There is nobody who's going to take the Transport Board in its current form. The only thing they can take it and do with it is decimate it, liquidate it, send home half the people working down there or more, and start from scratch. Because there's nobody who is going to spend $100 million running them buses up. The only body who can do that is government. Because we have a fiduciary responsibility to the fellow living in Connell Down, and Josie Hill, and Cherry Tree Hill in St. Andrew. We have a responsibility to the old people who have to catch the bus from down there. No private concessionaire ain't got no responsibility to none of them.
While addressing a DLP St. Michael's South branch meeting, the finance minister said the majority of workers who lost their jobs during the period 2007 to 2013 were mainly private sector employees. According to Mr. Sinclair, many were laid off as companies reduced operations and cut expenditure.
So unemployment went from about 7% to around 10%, or just over 10%. The majority, the vast majority of those were private sector employees, not public officers. Because the government's position was throughout that entire period was that we would not lay off anybody as long as we could afford to keep them. That was the promise. The promise was that we would not absolutely lay off anybody. And I think the Prime Minister addressed this in Parliament.
Government intends to build out northern Barbados, and the introduction of the beaches chain in Spicetown is just a start. Minister of Housing Dennis Kelman, who is also the MP for St. Lucie, expects residents of rural Barbados to benefit from the opening of the Sandals Hotel chain.
So when Sandals come here, they're not just coming to put up a structure down there. Because when the tourists come, the whole of St. Lucie, the whole of St. Peter, the whole of St. Andrew, the whole of St. Joseph must benefit from it. So under rural, we must build out these areas to ensure that they don't stay in the hotel room and leave their purse at home.
Mr. Kelman says despite criticism to the proposed waste-to-energy plant in St. Thomas, many of the negatives associated with the mangrove landfill will be eliminated.
All of that land that Silene developed and couldn't touch, they can now touch it, you know. Because once this waste-to-energy project comes, the leachate that creates the smells, you wouldn't have to worry about that. The heat will look after that. And when you pass the mangrove now, you wouldn't have to worry about the smells. Because we will be thinking, and you know what? We will be turning those negatives into positives. Because we will not only be dealing with the smells and all of those environmental problems, but we will be creating a positive, because now we will be creating energy to feed into Barbados Light and Power, etc.
Dame Maisie Barker Welch was presented with the insignia of Dame Commander of the British Empire earlier today at Government House. Accompanied by members of her family, Dame Maisie was presented with the insignia by Governor-General Sir Elliot Belgrave. Prime Minister Fendel Stewart was also in attendance. It was announced in the Queen's New Year's Honours list that Dame Maisie would have been bestowed the title. A government minister has reassured members of at least one credit union that government's decision to tax the assets of credit unions and other financial institutions will be for just 1 year. Minister of Industry, International Business, Commerce and Small Business Development, Donville Innes, made the comment as he addressed the annual general meeting of the Light and Power Employees Cooperative Credit Union Limited.
Some of you may have concerns that this is a reduction in your funds allowed for further investments or for dividends paid to your shareholders. Now, others may view this as a small contribution to the stability of this fragile economy and as an investment in a stronger and more vibrant national economy, which shall emerge shortly. Of course, I'm advised by the Ministry of Finance that this is for a year, and it's not such a large quantity being asked of the credit union. But I always err on the side of caution and very diplomatically say that where there's discomfort, let us talk.
The minister also suggested that credit unions explore ways to expand their portfolio while paying attention to small businesses.
There's nothing stopping a well-managed credit union from expanding in the future, especially if they increase your constituent base and provide additional financial packages that are attractive to your members and potential business persons. And I'm of the firm view that the credit unions in Barbados must be far more engaging, not just with the regulatory partners like the Financial Services Commission, but indeed with other government departments such as my ministry and with the Ministry of Finance, so that we can roll out additional products for the benefit of your members and for the wider society.
The Gymnasium Limited is undertaking a new marketing strategy between the period of May 1st and August 31st. This is the result of a partnership between the National Cultural Foundation and the Gymnasium Limited to facilitate the launch of Fet City. Acting General Manager Barbara Bostick says a long-standing policy will be relaxed to promote a party atmosphere for the crop-over events.
Through this period, the no eating and drinking policy will be relaxed. It is our vision for Fet City to become an annual event during the crop-over season, making the gymnasium both inside and outside a hub for lines, fetes, a variety of shows, tent judgings, and recordings.
Minister of Culture, Sports and Youth, Stephen Lashley, pointed out that there will also be adjustments to the high cost of the electricity bill.
First and foremost will be the introduction of an alternative energy source, the far more economically use of solar energy. And this will result in a significant reduction in the cost of hosting events, redundant to the benefit of all persons.
Roberts Manufacturing is aiming to use local ingredients for feeds to reduce the food import bill. This announcement was made at a Thanksgiving ceremony for the company's 70th anniversary. Chairman Ferrer Delmas says Roberts is intent on supporting the local farming community.
As an industry leader, Roberts has an important role to play in the area of food security and sustainability and the generation of foreign exchange. Our aim will be to strengthen our effort to further support the farming community in initiatives which seek to increase the production of quality poultry, and meats for local consumption, thereby assisting in national effort to shrink the annual food import bill.
Mr. Delmas also revealed that Roberts is looking into using alternative sources of energy for their manufacturing plant.
We have a national food bill of around $800 million a year. We need to seek to use alternative energy in the running of our plant's operations, which will result in a decrease of foreign exchange to buy fuel that generates our electricity.